Hey, I have a brand new regulator rectifier installed on the CX500 now. Let me show you how I did it. Welcome to Urban Monk TV. Okay, so Honda CX500, we replaced the stator with a new unit from RMStator, and of course when the stator goes bad, the rest of the electrical system tends to have troubles also. And I tested the regulator rectifier on this bike and it also was bad. I don't know which went bad first, but they went. And so when you go to the Honda parts lookup for the regulator rectifier for the CX500, you find that it's a discontinued part. You can't buy yourself a brand new Honda Reg to replace it. But the folks at RMStator have a more modern and good fit solution. Let's get into it. First, let's look at what we have on the bike stock. You got 3 yellow wires. These are coming from the stator. You'll follow those up to the connection we made in a previous video where we wired the stator in, which I also got from RMStator. And then you got this red wire, which is the positive, and then a green wire, which is the ground, and this black wire. This black wire, well, let me show you where that goes. So again, the 3 yellow leads coming from the stator head into those 3 yellow wires on our reg rec. Green is ground. Of course, your battery is also grounded here. And then you have this red, and there's a white stripe on it also, that comes in from the battery, and a black wire that's coming off the ignition switch. And I spoke with one of the engineers at RMStator about this black wire. I said, what is the purpose of that? And he explained that that is how these older reg recs sensed the voltage that is in the system. And with the new RMStator reg rec, we have 3 contacts coming off the stator. That's easy enough. Those can be connected in any order. And then we have 2 terminals on this side. And the question becomes, well, which is which and what about the third? The third being that black. Here's the answer. With the RMStator regulator rectifier, there's no need to hook up the black wire. This thing has a more modern circuitry built into it where it will monitor the voltage directly off the battery. So all we need to know is that the inside terminal here is for positive to the battery, direct to the battery, and the outside is negative. So what is that on the bike? So that inside terminal on the new RMStator brand reg rec is going to go to our red and white, or positive. The outside terminal will go to our negative, or ground. In this case, the color is green. So one of the first things I'm going to do is get the old regulator rectifier out of here, and I'm going to start by disconnecting the 3 yellows. And then down on this bracket, which I have taken out of the bike and kind of all disassembled right now, I've got this red plug here that I'll need to pull apart. And now, come on, the old reg rec is out.
If you like motorcycles, custom builds, or just like a good story about a man's 3-year effort to build a tribute to his childhood teacher, get a copy of Creating Mr. Corton. In it, you'll learn how this man changed this man for the better. How this man took this and built this. How these guys became lifelong friends and enthusiasts of motorcycling and craftsmanship. And how the name Urban Monk originated. It's available from Amazon anywhere in the world that Amazon ships, in both paperback and ebook, or you can purchase through a link found on urbanmonktv.com. Get your copy of Creating Mr. Corton today.
So one of the things I like about the RMStator, particularly this model, and contact RMStator and they'll help you pick the right one because they have a lot of different options. But mounting, of course, is an issue. And with the old stator, we've got about roughly 65 millimeters between the holes. And the new RMStator Reg Rec, about the same. So we'll be able to mount this using the original mounting holes, and then from a thickness standpoint, or this dimension, we're not too far off. It's about the same. It's actually a little bit more narrow. Now it is slightly bigger this way, but barely. And we should be able to get this to fit in the original position. The only thing that's bigger, of course, is these plugs. There's less bulk with the old one in that area. But there's an upside to these plugs. They're really watertight. The plugs that they provide have a really good, it's not supposed to be on there like that, but they seal really well. I know I use the term watertight. Don't hold me to that. I'm misusing the term. I don't mean that you can take this thing and completely submerge it in water and expect that it won't short out. But these are, weather resistant for sure. So great plugs. Let's see how this fits into the bracket. So by taking these two wires here and just routing them a little bit out in front of the regulator rectifier, I'm not mounting this in right now, but that bracket mounts just like that, and then the reg rec mounts there, and there will be room back here when we move this plastic plate a little bit to get the plugs connected. And this will be a way to replace the regulator rectifier in an old CX500 in a way that it fits, in a way that it works, and it's a brand new reg rec. But let me just take it out of there for now and let's wire it. I will put the part number for this RMStator brand regulator rectifier down in the description below, as well as a link to RMStator. But don't take my word for it that that's the exact reg rec that you need for your bike. Contact RMStator and ask them to get you hooked up with the right one of their products for your application. Okay, so we need to get this wired up. How do we want to go about that? These plugs plug directly into the rest of the bike, and so why wouldn't I want to keep those? Well, if this were a good part, I would want to keep that wiring with that part. But this has tested bad. This thing is headed to the bin, and so why don't I just take these wires, and I'm going to cut them off right here, and I'll utilize this good wire to hook up to my new reg rec. Now I keep referring to this thing having tested bad. You might be watching this saying, how do I test mine to know if it's bad or not? I've done a video on that already. I'll put a link up here on how to test your regulator rectifier on the Honda CX500. So okay, we've got wires here now. This is going to the bin.
So first thing I'm going to do is cut back a little wire here so that I've got something to work with. And I'm okay here. And then let's get these wires stripped back some, paying attention to how much I will need on these connectors. So I want this back portion, just like in the wiring video for the stator here on the Reg Rec, I want this wire in this far so that this forward tab is contacting the electrical wires, you know, the strands inside, but that there's insulation back here for these to crimp down and hold the wire. So I probably want to strip away, you know, about that much. There, that's pretty good. So there, these will have a good grip on the insulation, and this will have a good contact on the wire. There's our stator wires. Now for these. So here I have stripped the green and the red with white stripe. I have not stripped the black. That one I'm just going to insulate. Just going to use a little electrician's tape. Again, we do not use the black wire with the new Reg Rec. It monitors voltage on its own, direct from the battery. So the first step with these, make sure you put these rubber insulators on first and pull them down as far as you can away from the area where you're working on the end of the wire. So with these terminals, I'm going to solder them on like I did this one, and like I mentioned before, you know, you want to leave some insulation back here and just get the solder up in the front tabs. And then the other thing I'll mention is I'm using leaded solder, leaded electrical solder with a rosin core. It requires a lower temp than silver solder. And so use some good ventilation. Don't try to breathe, well, just don't breathe the fumes off of this if you can, and avoid your exposure to lead. And the cooler temperature helps to avoid melting the insulation back here. So I'll go ahead and pinch this onto the wire. But it's still loose in there, and then I'll throw the solder down in it. Then when I'm done with that, I'll just bend these tabs down onto the wire to hold it even better. There we go. And then of course the same thing with my red and green. Put on my little rubber insulators. They're really water seals, not insulators. And I'm going to try to put that down as far as I can from the heat. There we go. And then I'll solder them on. Okay, so just to revisit, these three are for the stator. So that's gray, and we'll put this together. Make sure I'm going the right direction. Again, the order does not matter here. Something like that. Then this guy, those little teeth, if you can see those there, they go down and clicks in like that. And then the seal. This can be kind of fiddly. Let me work with this off camera. I'll get it in there. You get the point though. You gotta just push it down in and get it. I'll show you. So get it around like that and then find something to slide it down. Frankly, when you plug it in, it's going to be forced down and it'll seal that. But, you know, something like that. Good enough. Then again, to revisit, inside pin on this black double pin, inside is going to be our positive red with white stripe wire, and the outside will be the green or ground or earth, and black we have insulated off. Green is outside. Oop. I have that right? Yes, I do. Red is inside for positive. So there are my two connectors. Okay, so over on the bike you have this bracket that mounts up in there, and our regulator rectifier goes in here. The wonderful thing about the RMStator Reg Rec is that the holes match up. The original screws or bolts that held the stock Reg Rec in, you know, were quite short, and on the new unit they need to be longer. I've got some left over from my GS550 project that are the same thread and thread pitch. So I can't use these, and if you do the same Reg Rec, you won't be able to either. These are looking better to me. So it's a nice fit for that bracket. There is a little interference back here. I'm going to have to reroute these wires just slightly, but I think it's going to fit. And we will make it work. Again, the original stock isn't available, so we gotta make something work here. Now, one thing I'll point out is that this wire retainer does interfere with this plug to the stator, so I'm just gonna bend that out of the way. And you might say, well, why don't you just cut it off? I really feel like I want to still keep the bike original, and you know, I don't know. I mean, you're never going to come up with an original Reg Rec for this thing again other than an old one, and so it's a good point. I don't know why I would want to keep this. The desire would be just to keep it original, like stock form, but out of necessity I've had to deviate from that anyways. Or I can hide it back there possibly. Yeah, there's room for that. This one is not interfering, so I'll leave that down there. Okay. And then I will need to feed this up. Come on. There you go. Plug in our stator wires. Oop. Yeah, that's correct. Okay. And let's see if we can make it all fit. Again, a bunch of this wiring is going to have to come forward from where it was originally. And then I need to get these bolts in. It's a tight fit. I'll leave that loose. And let's see what I can do to get this bolt on down here. Okay. Okay. And put our starter solenoid back in its place. And then just tuck those wires up in there. So let's see with our side cover on if that's all gonna fit. I need new grommets here. But yeah, you know, it's working. Now you will notice back here, the inside of this is being pushed into the tire some, so I need to make an accommodation there. So you see, by necessity, those plugs have got to tuck behind the frame rail here, and as such they do push this plastic piece here in toward the tire ever so slightly. It's not much, but there will be just the tiniest bit of interference there. Right now, of course, we're up on the center stand, so I can't tell if that is going to make a difference. This is the widest part of the tire. That shroud may ride in here. I may be fine, but that is yet to be determined. I'm going to make a tiny modification. Oh, there you go. It's going to be all it takes for me to get the clearance I need from that tire. You'll see how I'm pulling it in and tucking it in, because it's not that there's an interference with my Reg Rec and the plugs, it's just the molding of this thing and the frame of it is pushing it into the tire ever so slightly, and this is enough to pull it out. And that won't be noticeable with the side cover on. So now I no longer have that interference up there. And the distance is pretty much what it is on the other side. There's the other side, so it's about the same. And then, of course, one of the last things we need to do is plug our stator in. Come on. There you go. Okay. So we have a new stator going to a new Reg Rec. Okay, so we have the new Regulator Rectifier in the bike from RMStator. This hat's a little tight on me, so I don't wear it that much. You know, I like this old one. But, hey, RMStator has made a great product for not only the stator inside the engine on these old CX500s,
but when that stator goes, they tend to blow the regulator rectifier or vice versa, and really as a pair they should be replaced. And RMStator has got your back there too, with a brand new, higher technology, more modern stator, reg rec that will fit in the bike. Little modification, but what are you going to do? You know, you can put an old Honda part that's 40-something years old back in, or you can have new parts. That's a choice. Hey, if you like motorcycles and wrenching on motorcycles, check out my book, Creating Mr. Corton. It's available on urbanmonktv.com. It is a memoir of me falling in love with the CX500, me building Mr. Corton, the GS550 Cafe Racer that you find on this channel. A lot of the behind the scenes decision making on why I built that bike the way I did. And I introduce you to Mr. Corton, my high school shop teacher from when I was a young guy growing up in Fargo, North Dakota. So check out the book. If you like this video and the other motorcycle content on this channel, I tell you what guys, I have a really big surprise coming up for this summer, and I'm not ready to announce it yet, but I am working behind the scenes on a really neat project. And so stay tuned for that, but please like this video and subscribe if you want to become an urban monk. Thanks for watching.